In today's episode, we sit down with Danny Wilsher, entrepreneur and mental health speaker. Danny is somebody that I've looked up to for the last 4 years. Somebody that's also doing a similar thing to myself. He's been a mental health speaker. He smashes it every single time I see him talk. Like I said, he's a huge inspiration to me. This conversation was energetic, inspirational. I learned so much from this conversation, and I hope you do too. This one is not to be missed. I hope you enjoy it. Danny, thanks for joining me.
Good to see you again, mate.
Good to see you, mate. So we've got Damaged Goods Co.
Yes.
Lid Decks.
Yes.
You've got a lot going on, mate.
Yeah, no, it feels that way. It feels that way. 3 years into business.
Yeah. Mental health speaker, entrepreneur.
Yep. You tell them.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Musician on the side. A little bit of music on
piano.
the side. Piano, definitely,
yeah.
which has been a dream over the past year. Just to have that in the gaff, mate, after the show has been amazing. But yeah, definitely a lot on, but it feels like, you'll know, kind of in business yourself, those first 2 years, wow.
Yeah.
You know, because people see, obviously people see the photos, they see speaking at, wherever Meta or this or that or Jaguar. They don't know behind the scenes. Obviously it's tough, but now we're at a point where it's so much more solidified in terms of where the business is headed, where the businesses are heading, the revenue streams, the change we're creating, how we partner with organizations, the organizations that we partner with, and actually what the roadmap for the future is. So I'm, super positive at the moment. Really positive.
I love that, man.
Yeah,
I've obviously followed the journey from
trying to be like you.
No, you're smashing it, mate. It's like I've said before, what we do is quite niche, especially of our age. There's not many other people doing it, and it's always good to see yourself doing it, because it always inspires me to think, oh, Dan's smashing it.
Yeah.
I need to be more like Dan.
No, but and that's the beauty of it, because I remember because obviously we've met a few times, known each other for a while. I remember in those first times, again, when you came to Manchester and you just saying, and that was a big realization for me. You were like, Dan, like you inspired me a lot to, to work harder, like seeing where you're speaking and stuff. And that for me was amazing, because whilst you're thinking that, I've been thinking for 2 years, like, this guy inspires. I love the work ethic. I think that's the biggest thing, obviously, the way you move forward with business, just how diligent you are in terms of where you're going. And even today, it's been nice for you to, in the car, just be chatting about how, you had this image of, how you want your family life to look and business to look and whatever, and you're actually there.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing to be able to do, to be able to say, this is how I want life to be. These are what my values are, like these are where I want business to go in, and to actually turn that into reality is something not everybody can do. So
appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
Congrats, man.
No, cheers, bro. Appreciate that. No, I really do. Thank you, especially coming from yourself.
Cheers, bro.
I want to go back to the reason why. The reason why you started being a mental health speaker, the reason why you started the businesses that you've started. Talk to me about that. What gave you the motivation to start this business and entrepreneurship and this journey that you've been on?
Yeah. There was a question I asked myself, and I wrote it in my journal at the time when I was on the precipice of going into business and actually committing to my dreams. And the question was, Dan, if your salary didn't change above like 20 grand for the rest of your life, knowing that you're talented, ambitious, clever, was clever in school, that sort of individual, if your salary didn't change above 20 grand for the rest of your life, like what would you still wake up every single day and do and still be happy doing? And it was like the kids. It's like working with the kids. But the reason for all that is, I'm trying to be the voice that I wish I had when I was young. And obviously that goes back to the story. Going through some difficult experiences, adverse childhood experiences, which I'd love to talk about the impacts of some of that stuff today. But going from kind of losing grandparents, 3 grandparents at the age of 5, going through my parents divorcing, dad being a heavy drinker, but a wonderful, wonderful human being. Mum being a workaholic, a teacher, seeing her looking after us majority of the time, single parent, like raising 3 kids. I grew up in a house full of women, chaos. But then obviously reaching the age of 9 and just thinking life was just moving forward and this is how it's going to be. To then, and I'll never forget it, just, head teacher coming in the classroom, telling me to grab my bag, my mum being waiting at the other side of the gates and running up, jumping into her arms and just saying, look, are we going to see Dad? And her being quiet and me running to the car, getting in the car and us setting off, and then her telling us that, Dad had taken his life and that he killed himself. at 9 years old. So for me, that was like, like I will never ever forget the day. I'll never forget it, and I still feel it now. And I ran in. The first thing I did was call my best friend. I was crying. I rang him down the phone. I just said, look, my dad's died. He started crying, and like those things will stay with you obviously forever. But it's an event which just changed my whole direction, where I was going. And being 9 years old with just women in the house, like I felt a sense of, I need to almost step into Pap's shoes. And there was kind of like a belief system that formed, the idea that, it was me who had to look after the family, the idea that money was really important. Dad was struggling financially, so I believed that I needed to have money so I wouldn't do the same. The idea that I could only rely on myself emotionally. There was this complex belief system basically, and that really impacted my time through education, my time through later on the corporate world. And I went from being, head boy in school, like super clever, writing and recording music, like writing all these songs. But it was so funny for me because over that time in school, and this is why the kids stuff is really important for me, over that time in school, I was leaving what I call behavioural breadcrumbs, which was, my way of asking for help when I didn't have the words or the consciousness to be able to do it. And we often see that in kids, they'll tell you how they're feeling, not through saying, actually, I'm going through this or whatever, or I've got these emotions or my anxiety's here, because they're not conscious of it. Actually through things like music or, creative things or drawing. So I was leaving all these signs asking for help, which went unnoticed because I was Dan who was head boy, and it only solidified the idea that I only had myself to rely on. So I became super independent, even when I struggled. Went from head boy to then, straight A's to then taking Class A drugs in college. Attendance just dropped off the edge of a cliff. Managed to scrape it into university, but I'd been battling with depression from kind of 17, anxiety, suicidal ideation, which was scary. I think the idea of like knowing Dad had done it, like it felt genetic. It was like if Dad's done it, I'm going to be capable of doing the same. And living in that kind of space for so long is, fight or flight. Anytime anything gets bad, you're always like, oh, but it's possible. Scary. Carried all that stuff into university. The drugs got worse, behaviours got worse, spending habits got worse, and then dropped out of university after 3 years. Still chasing the idea of money, obviously surrounded by alphas, lads were training, going to the gym. I was in incredible shape back then, not so much anymore. Doing all right, but definitely not, I looked very Polish back then. My Polish genes were strong, they were looking strong. But obviously it was in university, ended up dropping out, had the business. Afterwards, lost the business, fell into recruitment, high performance role. Still didn't receive much support in there. Then ended up going through therapy for like a year. So psychodynamic psychotherapy, which looks at unearthing emotions in the subconscious, bringing them to light from experiences that have been, in your past, and also looking at changing your beliefs and how you navigate relationships, which was obviously what I struggled with. So the type of therapy that I had was amazing. And from that, though, I learned about how one event can have such an impact on the way you grow up, on my, increase my risk taking, increase my my likeliness to depression. The idea of if you have 4 adverse childhood experiences, you're 1,200 times more likely to attempt to take your own life than somebody who doesn't. An adverse childhood experience being, loss of a close person, someone in your home, growing up with a parent with mental health issues, or a family member in jail, growing up around drugs, abandonment, all those sorts of things. Those key events that really alter the way that the brain develops as a young kid. So knowing all of that, but then also realising how wrong I was about the stigma that was present and talking. And I was like, why have I just never heard any of this stuff? Like I'm 22 in therapy, like I finished at 23, I'm like, why have I never heard? Not through primary school, secondary school, college, university, and in my corporate job, like just what it feels like and looks like to struggle, man. And I was like, I'm gonna be the voice. So then started Damaged Goods Co. a year after therapy, mate.
24 or 23?
24, yeah, 24 years old.
And how old are you now?
27. I'm using that Clarins at the moment, SPF 20.
Looking
I
young.
need it for the business stress. But then, obviously started, the first business at 24 and it's just been a dream ever since, but a challenging journey. But that's, that's the reason why, is fundamentally at the heart of it is just to be the voice that I wish I had when I was a young lad, mate.
I love that. There's no more intrinsic motivation than that to succeed, to have something that you never had, that you wish you had, and now you're transferring that and being that person for so many other people. It's phenomenal.
I think you'll know it as well. Like, one of the greatest virtues, I believe, like one of the greatest things to work towards in life is to be of inspiration to others. Like, I think it's the highest.
100%.
It's like the highest thing you can work towards being. And I have like a life where I'm so grateful to be able to be and to have been that for so many people. But like you, again, with me, like, you inspire me on a daily basis. Like, when I see what you're doing, even like recently with, you've been on the news, and like I'm seeing that stuff, and do you know how crazy it is? Just 5 years ago, people didn't even speak about this stuff, and now, you're leading the way in terms of visibility of that conversation, of the following you've got online, and what you're doing is just,
I appreciate
incredible,
that,
mate.
thank you.
It's amazing. How does it feel for you?
No, do you know what? I sometimes need to stop and just have a moment.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if you get that as well. Like, I feel sometimes I know my, not downfall, but one of my bad traits is that because I've been quite successful in the last few years, my expectations are way so high, and sometimes I don't meet my own expectations. So outside looking in, you see this guy that's just been on the news. Everything's looking well, and everything's going well. But because my expectations are so high, sometimes I don't feel happy because I'm not meeting my own expectations. When in reality, they're just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I battle with exactly the same thing. Also, kind of like the idea of like self-worth, and so I'm back in therapy at the moment.
How's that going?
Intense.
Yeah.
So I'm doing EMDR.
Okay.
Different therapist this time. I've been going for the past 3 months. EMDR is amazing, really good. But
what does that stand for?
Couldn't tell you, mate.
Sounds cool.
So yeah, it sounds cool. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but you follow a light. I should know. You can clip that one out. No, I'm joking. So you basically follow a light on a beam, left to right, and there's a lot of research coming around kind of the neuroscience behind it, but no one truly knows exactly why it works. But there's a light, you follow left to right on this beam, and the therapist will kind of guide you through a conversation. And so for kind of 40 minutes, your eyes are gazing and following this light, and the therapist is asking me questions. So we start off with an issue that might have come up in the week. So for example, I was happy to be open about it as well. As I was speaking to a kind of a VC, an investment firm, who said they'd really like to invest in one of my ideas, kind of LiveDex. Never done anything like that before. It was amazing for me. And the guy himself is someone that I, hold to a really high standard. I know his work. Most people know his work. They'll know his business that he, founded, and who his business partner was as well. And it was amazing for me. That stuff of dreams to be in the room. I felt sad afterwards, and just felt like deflated. Right. And I didn't understand why. And so that's where we started, our starting point. And he kind of led me through this path of, okay, Daniel, so why is it up here in this I am statement? So I feel sad. I feel this. Why do you feel sad, Daniel? Because actually I'm worried about letting people down. And I'm worried that actually, people, like, what I've created is fake, and people will just see through, everything, and that, I'm not actually this person who's got a business, and I'm not organized enough, and I'm not structured enough. So it was all these like I am statements, and they were all really kind of like negative and heavy. And it was like we were going through, okay, well, and I was saying about how like I'm always super perfectionist and I hold myself to this standard that's so far on this perfectionist end, because if I do that, then I never let anyone down. But in the process, I do end up letting people down. It makes me feel terrible about myself. Yeah. So we're following this journey, and it went back and down this like huge map for like 40 minutes. I felt like I was doing 6 rounds of boxing. I'll be honest, I'm crying at points.
Yeah.
I'm taking breaths. She's like, "You ready to go again?" Then I'm like, "Throw me back in, let's go for it." But I ended up after 40 minutes back at dad, and feelings of self-worth. And that was tough for me, because I'd done this whole journey of 3 years of telling myself a story that, felt solid and whole about the trauma. And now I've learned, I'm in a new phase of healing where actually there's still some more work to do around it all. But it's so interesting, like that self-worth for me is the biggest thing that I'm working on at the moment, because I'm exactly the same. I haven't been able to tell myself I'm proud. Like people will say, Dan, you've been on TV on Channel 4, you know, you spoke at Meta. I didn't feel proud because exactly like you,
I get it, man.
I'm like, I know where the bar is, and I know what I'm capable of being. So I don't allow myself to be Dan in the present, and I'm trying to work on being a bit more human.
When I saw you at Meta, I was like, fuck. I was like, that is mint.
Oh, it was top. It was a good experience.
Yeah,
It was
that is, especially, well, so when you spoke at Meta, how long had you been doing the public speaking for at that point?
2 years, mate. Yeah,
that's phenomenal. That's like Meta is.
I know.
If
11th biggest company in the. I did the research.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's definitely
11th
it's
biggest company in the world.
I do a bit of investing. I know it's obviously in the S&P 500, but I can't remember. I knew it was one of the top companies, but. And I know, and I remember the conversation I had with you. I said, "How the fuck did you get in there? How did you pull that one off?"
You did.
So tell us about it again.
Thanks to recruitment, fella. My God. Whew. Thank you to recruitment. Although it was a terrible time, wow. The fundamental skills that I learned of sales, like they have been the reason that I've been able to differentiate myself in the market as a speaker. I speak to so many people. You'll be the same. I speak to so many people, speakers, and they have wonderful brands online. But they're like, I'm not getting any leads coming in. Like, what's your outreach looking like? What do you mean? And I'm like, I'm sending people messages on LinkedIn. Like, do you send emails out? And like people don't do the outreach, and it's the sales, like that sales system of. So for me, I'm like my lead generation of. I know if I do 10 focused and targeted business development emails where I've researched the company and whatever a day, and I convert that into 5 meetings a week, and I close 50% of those at $2,500 or $3,000 or whatever it is, or $4,000. You can start to really look at, that moving forward. Albeit I haven't been that great with my structure and organisation whenever, because of the stuff that I've been doing recently, there's been so many plates to spin. That tends to be one that drops, but I always know that if business drops, what do I go back to? I go back to the fucking drawing board with it. So that's how it came around, and I'd written on a piece of paper, like the companies that I'd wanted to work with when I started, and Meta was on there, and I didn't feel ready in the first 2 years. And then I'd been getting some amazing feedback, and I was like, I'm ready for this, 100%. And that's what I said in the email. I was just completely honest, mate. And I just said, look, research the lady who runs obviously the mental health program within the company. Another recruitment tactic, LinkedIn, found the email, check the email. So
that's a skill, that though.
Yeah, but it is.
Skill, man.
It is. But then check the email through, the software that. Doesn't send an email, but you can check if it's correct.
Okay.
Knew that the email would be read, or at least arrive in the inbox, and then just passionately wrote why I wanted to work with them.
Do you remember what you said in the email?
So I said, look, hello X. I've been wanting to. I said I'm just going to be open and honest. Like I've been wanting to work with Meta for the past 2 years. I'm a mental health public speaker, 26 years old. I've been a finalist on Channel 4. I think that helped a little.
Yeah, definitely. Throw that one.
I've struck that one in, fella. And I've been waiting to work with Meta for the past 2 years. And I said, I'll be honest, I haven't felt ready to send this email. I feel ready now. I said over the past 2 years. I've spoken to, I think it was like 30,000 people at the time. I've done work with this company, this here. I was a finalist on Channel 4. Here's my story. Very open and honest. And she sent an email back. She said, Dan, I don't think this is right for us at the moment. Really? And that was it. And I sent another email to the objection. She said, but I'm happy to have a conversation with you.
She said that?
Yeah, afterwards. So she sent her an objection.
What was the objection? Yeah.
So just saying, look, I don't know.
And you handled the objection.
And she's busy, yeah. And I just sent an email back, like trying to get that meeting in, trying to lock the meeting, because I know that if I get you on a meeting, listen. That's where we are speakers. But that's the best dynamic for us to sell, isn't it? It's like,
of course it is.
It's like, if you see me speak on a meeting, you know what I'm going to be like on a call, in person, sorry. But then obviously she got the meeting in, and I said, yes, this is it. I said, watch. I said, you just watch. And I had the call, and we just had a lovely conversation. And the values that I know work for my talk, work the same in the meeting, openness, honesty. Talked about the story that I shared with you again just a moment ago. Was open and honest about where I was in my own journey, all of those sorts of things. Asked about the current challenges within the business, asked about her and her role. I was amazed at the stuff she'd done. And we had a lot of synergies between her own career progression. She wasn't from kind of a clinical background, but had built up a ton of experience. And actually her knowledge of the corporate side was what enabled her to get the job over those that were more clinical, because it was super important for the company. So like, I just connected with her on a human level as well. And it was brilliant. We had a wonderful conversation. And she just said, Dan, let me have a think. The next day, 24 hours later, and she said, Dan, I'll be honest, she said, I've never spoken to anyone. She said, I've spoken to countless trainers, countless speakers. They all want work with Meta. She said, I've never spoken to anyone who's been as impactful as you on a call. She said, this is the date. She said, you just send your invoice over. She didn't ask about the price. So
£1 million.
Hey, listen, but yeah, no, do you know what? But I didn't. I could have pushed the invoice. I kept it at exactly what my fees and my rates were, because, you know.
You wanted to be genuine.
Yeah, bro, 100%. And and that's.
But they'll respect
what it was
you
about.
more for that, and that's where repeat business will come from.
Yeah, and you know, for me, that was a dream. So that was how it came about. Mad place.
Yeah, was it in London?
Yeah, in London. Yeah, head office in London. They'd hired like a piano, a big grand digital piano. The stage was the biggest screen I've ever seen in my life. You know, like full sound team there. But I'll be honest, there wasn't many people in the room, because most of it was digital.
Wow.
So it was hybrid. We had like 16 cameras, room of like that could sit about 300 people. I'll be honest, mate, there was probably about 10, 11 people actually in the room.
Right.
So it was this weird.
How many people was on there?
In total, I can't remember how many it was on the hybrid, but it wasn't many in the room. But obviously they streamed it to the full company and kept the IP. I can't remember the figures exactly. And
that would have been a lot of people, though.
Yeah, I imagine so. But we sat in the room, and it was weird, because, you know, I'm used to big audiences, and I wanted to show it. So it changed the dynamic.
Did you find
of
it
the
more
talk.
intimate, more personal?
Yes, but also because of the size of the space and the lack of people in the room, like, it was tough as a speaker to work that, because, you know, I'm expecting cheer, like laughter.
Yes,
Like I have jokes in there, you know, it's very dynamic. They've got the boxing stuff, I'm inviting people up. And so that's where I feel like they didn't get the true value, because if that would have been filled, like when I have 300 people, it's not,
you get the atmosphere.
Oh, bro, it's crazy. So we have fun, everyone's laughing, you know, and that helps to build. But what an experience though, and just a joy. And it's one of those, like, I like romanticizing life, especially after those moments. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things is to sit with yourself after these big things, forget everything else. Call your mum, call my mum straight away. Mum, Meta was amazing. Phone off, bang, and I'll have 4 hours where my head is just rushing, and I'll sit there and I'll feel like this is what it means to, it feels like that's what it means to be alive. And I love those experiences.
You know what, man? I feel like it's something I always talk about gratitude and being present in the moment and stuff like that. But like, for example, you said about being on the news the other day, and I just got in the car and I went straight to my next meeting.
Yeah.
Don't
do that, fella.
No, I know. And he just said that, and I'm like, and I got home, and this is my problem at the minute. I got home and I told Amy, and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "When's it on?" And then it's on the news, and she's like bouncing up and down off the walls, and she's looking like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was on the news." And she's like, "You were on the," and I'm like, and now like when I think about it, I'm like, "Fucking hell, yeah." Like, I was just saying, like, you just need to sit in that moment, don't you?
Yeah. But I think that's also, it is tough, mate, because one, like you said there, the bar that we set ourselves, the reason it's so high is also the reason we do so much work, or so much good work as well. And like, without that, would you have done the stuff you've done? Would you get there? Probably not, because that's the driver as well.
Yeah.
And it's also like the flip side of, I think it's very hard. So I lost sight of just where I'm at the moment. Like, I've gone from having conversations about $3,000 talks to like multi-million-pound kind of conversations, you know. But just being in those rooms, and I felt a bit weird. It's weird to even say it then, and that's not from like an egotistical point of view. Like, and I always struggle with this side of things. But like, that's the value now that we're delivering. You know, actually being able to have conversations that, you know, are incredible.
Still get that feeling of like when you give somebody a price and they say, yeah, that's fine. You're like, you what? You're gonna pay me how much?
Yes,
Like,
I know.
I do and I don't. Like now,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the price. That's the value
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
offer. Not take it or leave it because I don't want to be arrogant. But I'm like,
Yeah.
these are all the other schools and all the other businesses that I've spoke at, and they
Yeah.
paid that price because the prices are reflective of the value that I offer
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
impact that
yeah.
I have.
100%.
That's when they can't. They're like, you charging me how much? I'm like, yeah, but the social proof is there.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you
Yeah.
still say and think, fucking hell, I just got
Yeah.
paid.
Exactly that.
Money to do that.
It's wild, but it's also like amazing. But it's also a reflection of the value. So I used to, but I'll be honest with you, I probably don't anymore.
Yeah.
Because I know the value.
Yeah.
Because for example, like when I do a talk, I did a talk at a law firm a couple of weeks ago. There were 40 people in the room. 25 of them emailed HR saying how incredible it was. A girl wrote me an article. People were saying it was been the best speaker they've had in the company since its existence. And I've always found it tough because I've also been in situations where I've undercut my value and I've hated it because I've known that where I'm at and I've gone lower and I've gone lower and I've gone lower and then I've had literally people tell me, Dan, we would have paid X for this.
Yeah.
And I'm saying,
Why didn't you?
why didn't you? But and it's frustrating.
It's a disservice to yourself, isn't it?
Mate. And it's also the other side of like, you know, the value proposition of like, what is the price of genuinely being able to change someone's life? I've had people who have been suicidal, have tried to take their own life, have come to a talk and have spun their life, their lives around. You'll have had the same, yeah.
Amazing.
What's the cost of that?
Exactly.
What's the cost of it?
Yeah.
And just to go back to before, like again, it's kind of like, so those conversations that I'm having now where I feel, again, when we're talking about, you know, raising grant funding of like millions to build projects or whatever, and that being the vision and the goal and actually being able to move towards and be in those rooms and have those discussions, yes, it feels alien, but at the same time, there is also Dan who is saying, but I know this is where we're at now, and I know this is what we want to do, and actually, I know the scale of the change that I want to create, and that's worth. You can't put a price on what my vision is and what I know it will achieve, you know, and you know that's the beauty of it. So now I'm thinking about money differently, which is weird because I'm from a single parent, you know, family in Rochdale where my mum's, you know, we struggled a little bit in terms of, not massively, but you know. She always managed to do the best to get me everything that I've done, but money's always been a tough conversation in the family. It's always made Christmas or like going out. We've never like meals and stuff. It's just not been a thing. Just because, and when it has been a thing, it's always been the conversation of stress, you know. And that relationship has been tough, and it's impacted the way that I view resources like money. And so it's taken a bit for me to change my belief around it.
And how has it changed?
Now it's like, I've seen the different levels.
Yeah.
So this is the other thing, is like,
I know what you mean.
I've seen the different, like, I've seen it where like, people are just, I've had clients that are asked about 500
quid.
And I've had people who are talking about, again, incredible figures, and that's their day-to-day business because they're signing invoices at 300 grand a day.
Do you not think
do you know what I mean? And it's a switch.
It's crazy, isn't it? The levels to it.
Yeah, that's
like last year. I'm not going to say the figure, but last year financially for me was the best year I'd ever had.
Yeah.
Did really well, and I thought, yeah, decent that. And then you look at like, and this is the problem with social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like what I did last year financially was better than most people will ever do in a lifetime.
100%.
But then you go on social media, you go on Instagram, and I'm always saying don't compare yourself to people. And then it's just like the fucking levels to it, man.
Yeah.
It's like what I perceived was really good last year, and it was good, and I'm proud of what I achieved.
As you should be.
I am proud of it, but then that's where you set the bar higher. Like this year, obviously the figures behind me there.
Yeah.
I'm like, this year I want to do.
I've not looked at them, but I would.
This year I'm like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then you just. But where does it end? Where the goalpost always moves, doesn't it?
Yes and no. And I think it's about the value that you put on money and what you use it for. So my goalpost is, I'll be honest, God, first year in business, I paid myself £24,000 and then got taxed. First year as a speaker.
Is that as a limited company?
Yeah, bro, I'm like thinking about where's food coming from at times. So my journey through, you know, life has been shocking with money. Like obviously the family stuff, single parent mum, she was a teacher raising 3 kids and went through some difficulties. Then I was in the financial debt at uni, dropped out of uni, went into recruitment, but then, you know, struggled with my mental health in that. Did really well for the first few months and then it dropped off the edge of a cliff. So I'm on an 18k base salary with I earned like 30 grand for that whole year. Half of it went on drugs because of the position that I was in. I was paying for therapy on my own, £400 a month. At times. I had to stay at my barber's because I didn't have anywhere to live. Like, money wasn't a thing. And I'm now getting to a point, finally, and I'm like 27 now, and I'll be honest, where like, now I can start to be strategic with cash flow. That's a huge win for me, I'll be honest. That's a big, it's a big thing. Yeah, no, it's a big thing.
No, it's phenomenal,
It's a big thing. It's a huge thing, you know, just to be at that point. And it's powerful because I also know I've done what I've done over the 3 years just off creating from nothing. Imagine when we're able to
compound effect.
Exactly. So it's brilliant, but and that's coming back to the conversation about the relationship with money is like, for me, the goal and the goalpost is how many people can we impact? How big can we build something so it creates as much change as possible? You know, how can we spread these messages? Cool. Naturally, the more value you give to society, the more you're going to get back in terms of funds. But where I'm at is like, whatever's coming in, I know my base. I know what I'm happy with to live off, and I know what I'm comfortable for the next. I know what I'd be comfortable on the next 5 years, and it wouldn't be like an unimaginable amount, like a world, like it's a normal amount. I'd be comfortable for 5-10 years on that if it allows me to invest millions in creating hopefully what we'll bring to life with LiveDex, you know, and that's the dream. So I think it's right in what you're saying, because the goalposts do always move. I also haven't been in a position where I've been in you where, you know, hundreds of thousands or whatever. And so I don't know what I'm going to be like when I get there, but I kind of feel like at the moment from where I'm at, the goalpost for me is the change. But I can imagine, you know, when money comes, we'll see. We'll see when it's probably there.
Well, you said something really interesting, and that really struck a chord, was that everything else just comes as a byproduct. And something that I do at the end of every year. So the last week of December, I'll sit and reflect on the year and look at what went well, look at what we can improve on, and then I'll set my goals based on that and my reasons why. And I never none of my goals are ever set on my financial income.
100%.
Ever. My goals are always set on how I can serve other people.
100%.
So how many talks can I deliver? How many workshops can I deliver? What's the following like? And the following increasing, is it again on the basis of I'm reaching more people?
Exactly.
That's what I always set it on. And then, like you just said, everything else positive comes as a byproduct from that.
Exactly.
If you're constantly chasing the numbers, then you'll never get there.
Exactly. But the numbers are I think the numbers are important as well, though, because they're a reflection of exactly what you've just mentioned. So the two work hand in hand.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, especially when I have a passion for business. I love sales. You know, I know you do. You come from that background. Like that's a language. It's a language in a sense. Anyway, you're never going to leave it.
No.
You know, and I also don't think, you know, some people, I don't like the rhetoric of, but you're in mental health and you can't make money.
Oh mate, don't.
It does my head in.
Fucking hell.
Like, life is about value, isn't it? And that's the way I see it is like clear as day. It's like it's on the top of the government's agenda for this, you know, this year for Labour. It's probably the biggest crisis globally that we know of. It's one of the biggest difficulties that we're facing currently in society. If I'm bringing value to what is one of society's biggest challenges, of course there's going to be a financial, you know, like the byproducts of finance off the back of it, 100%. And that's also right, and it's also okay, you know, and it doesn't mean, like I don't like this super noble, like, yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, it's fine money's fine, because the tool for us, and especially for kind of where I'm going, is like more of it, because you see what comes off the back of it. You see what comes off the back of it. Chat to me in, you know, 5-10 years.
But if you did it for free, then there would be no longevity in it.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't be able to do it, therefore it would stop, and then people would not have the impact that they've been given. It baffles me. Like people, not recently, but there was a period where I had a promo video. Dan shot it for me, and I put some money into paid ads, and I had 3 or 4 messages saying, "How dare you do this? How dare you make money from your brother?"
You sent me one.
And I was like, "Do you want me to work for free? Like, do you want me to go to work for free?" And I think I asked him a question. I said, do you go to work where your place of employment is? Do you go there for free of charge? No. So what's your problem?
Why are you expecting me to do the same?
And if I can do
And
what
actually-
I do and make money, and somebody turn around to me and say I've saved a life, then what's your problem?
Exactly.
crazy.
Exactly that. And that's it. And I think it takes some of those experiences for you to be comfortable in that, because when you know the value of your work, those things, they don't matter, because I can sit here and comfortably say, I can give you case study after case study after case study of messages, people who've told me that I've saved a life, all of those sorts of things. You put a price on that.
Yeah.
And if you were to put a price on it and you didn't know who I was, I guarantee the price you put on it would be well over what I'm charging or what money I'm making. Because again, it's not really just about the money, isn't it? It's about it's value first.
100%.
So yeah, I'm with you on that rhetoric, and it's also part of who I am, and I also want that side for myself, as it's possible.
Yeah.
So why not?
Of course, man. Of course. I know there was with the coaching, the one-to-one mindset coaching. I have a guarantee that if at any point within our experience of working together, or after 3 months of working together, you want your money back, you get your money back, no questions asked.
Amazing.
So for me, I obviously don't care about money.
Amazing.
Do I?
Exactly.
And I said that on a TikTok. I remember I said that on a TikTok video, and someone again said, "How can you charge people that want to take their own life money?" And I'm like, "Well, obviously you don't see the point of what I'm getting at, do you?"
Yeah.
If I save somebody's life and they pay me 200 quid a month, then what is the price on that?
Well, 100%. But I think it's a fine balance, isn't it? Of like, it's also kind of the the idea of like, you being able to say, actually, where can I add value? And it's the boundaries thing, isn't it? And yes, there is a fine line with it. So I have to be really conscious, especially when I'm working with people, as you do, of like, okay, what are the boundaries? What am I capable of doing? Where can I help you? What is that going to look like? What do you actually need?
Yeah.
And if we can stay within, not push those and actually stay within, within those boundaries, then that relationship is healthy, and the communication is healthy. And like we said, changing someone's life is an experience that I've been super, just amazingly blessed to have, and that's what I want to continue doing. And it goes back to my question that I asked at the start of the business, which alludes to it all, is if my salary didn't change for 20 grand, what would I do and still be happy? I would still be doing this work. Just happens that I'm good at it, and as a result,
shit hot.
it's shit hot. And as a result, we're able to grow resources. So it's interesting.
No, it's amazing.
Well, I love the way that you set things up. I love the varying degrees of support that you offer. I love the way you've grown the business, even the work from the videography side. So shout out to you, Dan, on the computer, because even just those videos and the consistency, all of that, like where you've took your brand and pushed the messaging is sensational.
No, I appreciate that, mate, especially coming from
good.
yourself. No, like I said to you before, there is obviously other people, but I don't know anybody else of our age group that does what we do.
Yeah.
So to constantly, I don't see it as competition, I see it as inspiration.
100%.
Like when I see it, and I see you doing a talk, I'm like, fuck, that's me.
Yeah. But it's the idea of like, and this is why, I know people in the space that would feel a certain type of way by congratulating you on something that they actually want, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I still have like a little bit of those feelings because I'm a competitive man.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
because it's natural. But like, it's the understanding that everyone is stronger together in terms of this messaging. There is so much work to be done. There is so much for everyone. I think that's the biggest thing I've realised over the past year has been, I probably in the first 2 years was very, I'm the UK's youngest mental health public speaker. Like it's me, this, like I'm the best, I'm this, whatever. Like, it was a lot of that. It was a bit of like ego. And now I've realised like there is so much value. I have like people that I'm mentoring at the moment, speaking, helping them to like for free, helping them just start their own story, get working in companies, working in schools, like bringing them advice, pulling into stuff, giving them opportunities if I can. And I thrive in those areas, and it's amazing because there's so much to go at. And it takes nothing away from me, shouting about somebody else who's doing amazing work. In fact, it adds, because it strengthens the relationship. It's opportunities like this come from it. It's the visibility as well.
100%, mate. And at the end of the day, what's the message? We're in it to make the same impact, to have the same message. And for example, this podcast will go live in a couple of weeks. There'll be multiple short form reels produced from this that we'll then collaborate on Instagram.
Exactly,
And the message is spread across 2 platforms instead of 1.
100%.
So you're reaching twice as many people. And if someone on your platform didn't know who I was, or someone on my platform didn't know who you was, you said something.
The ratio's a bit off at the moment though, because you're at about 60k, so I'm definitely winning on that end of the deal. So I appreciate it, but it's true.
But you could say something of the many, inspirational and motivating things that you say that I have obviously never said, and that could reach somebody on my platform, and at that very moment in time, that person needs to hear it. That's what it's all about.
And the power of conversation, like other lads just seeing 2 blokes sitting down
talking about mental health, don't happen.
Not many people do, and
No, it doesn't.
even that is change, which is amazing. Why do you think your work works?
I think I said this on the news the other day. I said because of who I am, because of I like to look good. I like to always be the best version of myself. I always have a strong message of you got to work hard. I like to get up early. I like to get to the gym. I like to wear nice clothes. That's me. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. I'm not pretending to be anybody else. But when I go into a school, the lads, probably similar to yourself, will look up to me as this person that they maybe want to aspire to be like, with the businesses that are doing well, of everything else that I stand for. But then I say, well, at one point, I didn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful message. And that's why I think it works so well.
It does, yeah. Amazingly well.
What about yourself?
Resonate with all of it. I think a multitude of different things. I think, first of all, one thing that we've missed, especially in schools, is the power of connection over these messages. The reason why it works as young, lads going in is that power of connection, because we're close to them. Like you said there, it's kind of, especially kind of there's a lot of conversation around masculinity at the moment. I'm not going to go into it because it's a complex one, and I've got varying beliefs around a load of different sides of it. However, those, especially for the lads, those typical masculine traits of business, sport, goes to the gym, does the boxing. I've got boxing demonstrations in my talk and stuff.
What is that? Sorry, just to digress slightly.
Yeah.
I always see in the images and the videos. What is it that you do?
Yeah, so anyone doing this, I need the copyright. I'm going to look into the camera and say it, because nobody's done this. It came from me only. It's also going in my book, so I'm going to copyright it. In terms of the demonstration itself, so it's called Why Do Boxers Use Weights in Their Hands Before They Train for a Fight. So do you know why boxers use weights in their hands?
No, please tell me.
So before the training, they'll have like 2 or 3 kg. And they'll be throwing the combos in the gym, sparring nice and easy. They have those weights because there's more resistance. Sure. What do you think happens to their arms when there's more resistance? What do you think's happening when they're holding those weights and they're throwing those punches? What do you think happens?
Getting stronger.
Huh?
Obviously, the punching with the weight, so the arms are getting used to lifting heavy weights, striking it at more force, so it's getting stronger. So when they get rid of the weight, it's even stronger then.
Exactly. Yeah. So the boxers use those weights in their hands because when they're training with those weights in their hands, there's more resistance. There's a force against them. So the punches, they're slower when they've got the weights in. They get tired easier. It's harder for them to hit probably what they're aiming towards. Their stamina decreases, and it's harder for them to hit the target. The beautiful thing is when those weights come off and they're in the fight, they're quicker, they're faster, they're stronger. They're able to hit what they're aiming towards. They can throw the jab a lot quicker for a lot longer because they've been used to training with with holding those weights. And I came up with the analogy for how it felt like in my life, and I do a bit of boxing, nothing crazy. But yeah, I do a little bit of boxing, and that was like a perfect analogy for me because it was the idea that when I was carrying all this weight on my shoulders, I couldn't hit my targets, mate. I couldn't fight for as long. I couldn't throw the punch for as long. I was getting tired, I was being weighed down. I couldn't move as quickly. When I went through therapy, I still had that weight, but I began to fight and I'm throwing punches, but I've still got this weight. When I went through therapy, that weight started to come off because I'm putting things down. I'm talking about things. I'm exploring how emotions have impacted, my life, how I've had certain beliefs which have impacted relationships, or why I don't trust people, or I'm putting these things down. I'm shedding this weight, but I'm still fighting with the same tenacity as when all the weight was on, but now the weight's coming off. So I'm picking up momentum. I'm moving quicker, faster and stronger. And ultimately when the weight of my dad's suicide was put down, bro, I felt like I could achieve anything. And I went from nearly failing college to 5 years of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, to the drugs, to financial difficulty, being in debt, to not having healthy relationships, not being able to set healthy boundaries, to struggling with my mum, and my family at home, to struggling with friends, to not being able to hold down a job in the corporate world because I was just in a mess, to then fighting, throwing the punches, putting the weight down, to then being Daniel, who now has spoken to, 45,000, 50,000 people, who's worked with Meta, who's been on Channel 4 and has performed at one of the biggest venues in Europe, a song called Learn to Live, and, thrown myself back into the music and pushes my comfort zone. Like, I am now like Daniel, who is living as his authentic self. And that's what the analogy shows with the boxing demonstration. And the way that I show that is I'll invite someone up from the audience, and I usually pick the alpha because it works better for the demonstration. And he'll come up and I'll say, look, can you throw a jab? He said, yeah, of course I can throw it. I said, you sure? I said, show me a jab hand then. And if they pick the left, I know they've done some boxing, because anyone who's never done boxing, they always pick the right because it's a stronger arm, but your jab is obviously your reach finder, it's your left. So if they pick the left, amazing. It's going to be a good show. Then I say, look, Joe, for example, you're just going to throw your jab 5 times. I've got a boxing pad. I said, Joe, I'm going to try and make you miss. Joe, you're not going to tell me when you throw your punch, and you've got 5 attempts, you're going to try and hit this pad. So you're going to throw the punch, I'm going to try and make you miss. You're not going to tell me when you're throwing your punch. Can you do it? Yeah, no problem. So I said, everyone give him some fucking energy. Get everyone to give him a round of applause, hype him up a little bit. But I said, listen, Joe, I said, you need to pick up this 5 kg weight and hold it in your jab hand. So now he's like, oh, right. Okay. So I'm holding the weight now. So obviously he picks up the weight. You can see confidence is knocked a little bit, yeah? And I said, you ready? You feeling good? I said, Joe, the only thing I need from you is I'm enjoying my face at the moment. So, so please, Mr. Face, I don't want to get sued, whatever it is. And obviously when he goes to throw the jab, I see it from a mile off, because that 5 kg weight is heavy, bro. It's like this. And the amount of force. So I'm every time, miss. Everyone's laughing. And then on the last one, I look away. So I'm not even looking, I'm looking at the audience. I say, go on, Joe, bang, he'll miss. Everyone's laughing, everyone's, having fun. He's feeling a little bit like his ego's been knocked, which is fine. Humbling. I said, look, why was it tough? And he'll just go, because I'm carrying the weight. I can't hit what I'm carrying the weight. So I said, right, Joe, I'm a wholesome man. Mental health public speaker, I won't want you to come up and sit down feeling worse than when you came up, so I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. I said, we'll run the demonstration again, 5 jabs. I'll try and make you miss. You tell me. You don't tell me when you're throwing your punch this time, no 5 kg weight. Are you feeling good? He's like, yeah, I feel a bit better. Get the audience to give him some energy. And we go again, and now this time, when he's popping a jab, they'll often move around a bit. They're on the feet a bit more, especially if they've done some boxing. They're smiling, they can feel it, and bang, throw the jab, he'll hit. And I'm like, all right, okay, fair enough. And it'll end up being 70, 80% hit ratio. And it's a beautiful analogy, because at the end, he's feeling good, he's feeling strong. And it is the idea that, when we're carrying things on our shoulders, it's harder for us to hit the target. We're slower, we're not as strong, we're not as quick. We get tired easier, but look what happens when we start to put weight down. The things that we're aiming towards, whether it's in a personal or professional sense, become a lot easier to hit, mate. So that's the...
I'm glad you trademarked that.
Well, I haven't yet. So I've got the evidence now on socials. If anyone nicks it, that's the analogy.
I love that. That's such an amazing analogy. And I always wondered, like I said, I
tried to keep it quiet for you, but this is the first time I've ever spoken about it.
No, you explain it so well.
Mate.
I hope that's under a minute and a half, because that'd make a fucking phenomenal reel.
I trust Dan to be able to work his magic, so we'll see.
No, I love that.
The thing is, though, I speak very fast, so there's few breaks between, so it might be a tough one. We'll see.
No, I love that, mate.
But yeah, that's the analogy, and it works well.
Of course, mate. I can see how much of an impact that would have, especially... I remember what I was like at school, trying to be the alpha male. If I was to go up and be that guy, like, fucking pick me, and then you're doing that, you'd be humble, but then again, in the same respect, you'd understand the message. I can see why that would work so well.
But it's the beauty in it as well, though, is like, when they got that weight, they're not as confident, and you can see they're a bit of a shell of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's the same when we're struggling, but when the weight goes down, the confidence is there. You can see, and it's a reflection of exactly the same process that I went on in that whole journey, man. So that's why I talk about it, and it adds a bit of change to the talk. So in answer to your question, because I appreciate there was a question at the start, was why does my talk work? I'm very good at what I do, but I think it's the connection piece. But I also envisage my talk to be like a piece of music. I come from a musical background, so idea of dynamics. highs and slows, fast and lows, tension, release, you know, different layers, intro, middle eighth, chorus, and actually taking people on a journey through emotion, and even controlling when I'm speaking fast or slow or loud or whatever, and how I move around the stage, the moments that I'm quiet, coupled with very intricate detail to like what I put on the board behind me and not putting too much. Having that with the boxing demonstrations in there, and then the music at the end, whipping the vocals out, which nobody ever expects.
No,
you know, all of that together, and I'm quite theatrical, so I'm a bit like a US preacher, mate. You know, I sit in the churches.
Hallelujah.
So yeah, when we did the tour, obviously my co-founder Ollie, he was like, so he's very like clinical, very facts, bam, bam, bam. Bro, I'm walking up and down, arms are going everywhere. But that's my energy. That's what I like to bring to the talk. So that's why it works.
I can see why it works.
Yeah, but the vulnerability is the biggest thing. It's me going in there and just being, yeah, I've been through this, this, and this, and this.
People wouldn't expect that, seeing yourself before you walk through, would they?
Yeah, so that's why it works.
Nah, man, I love it. I love it. I love everything. I've followed your journey obviously for the last 4 years, and like I said, you're a massive inspiration for me. And you know, it's not competition; it's inspiration every single time.
100%.
One last question for you.
Yes.
If you could go back and speak to 9-year-old Dan, what would you say?
It's not your fault. Nice and easy. For me in that scenario, it's not your fault.
Yeah, it makes me emotional. Like.
Take the pressure off, man.
Yeah.
Take the pressure off. Even now, yeah, it's not your fault. I still put way too much, you know, and I've done the work, but I still find it easy to fall back into parts where I just blame Daniel for everything, bro. Even recently, like relationship stuff going on. My default is to go to Dan, it's your fault, and it's because of what I've been through. And I would love to just, you know, just give him that. But I wouldn't do if I had the opportunity to do so, because I'm fine going through the 13 years of difficulty, well, even more, you know. I'm fine going through that whole journey that we spoke about today. And I'd do it 100,000 times over if it meant that I get to change the lives of the people that I will do over the course of my journey on this earth, mate. So I'd love to tell him that it isn't his fault, but I also know that, you know, that was what got him to where he got to. So let me change my answer. I would say that, you know, that perhaps like he loved you, because I didn't think that for a while. So I would say that, you know, he did love you, because that's what I battled with for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'd say that. That's what I would say.
I love that, mate. That resonates for me so well, because the one thing I would want from a brother would be for him to tell me that it wasn't my fault. So when you said that, mate, it made me emotional.
Yeah, likewise, mate. But that's the beauty of it. Yeah. And again, a quote that I have is like, we all have the power to turn the darkest moments of our lives into the most beautiful parts, you know, the parts which shine the brightest. And I believe that is through the power of service. You know, I mentioned it to you last time, you know, the trauma has not changed. The event hasn't changed. What I'm able to use it for has. And now I use it to bring such beauty into my life, mate. And, you know, I'm grateful for all of that. And it's that message of hope, isn't it? It's like, you know, my story is not unique. We're sat having a very similar story in a lot of different moving parts to it as well. Like, there's a lot of synergies. My story isn't unique, but the unique thing about me and the unique thing about you is actually having the courage to push into the fear of judgment and all of those things, and push into the fear of the unknown for the service of other people. And that's where the magic is. And that has now changed my whole relationship with things that were once heavy and unimaginably painful, mate. So it's a blessing. Pleasure.
I've got the utmost respect for you, mate. Keep doing what you're doing. You're changing thousands of lives, hundreds, millions. Keep doing you, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you, bro. A pleasure.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
For that.